What if I told you that China wasn't born through unity, but through fear? Over 2,200 years ago, one man ended centuries of endless war, not by diplomacy, but by rewriting how power itself worked. He erased kingdoms, crushed traditions, burned books, and buried scholars alive, all to create something the world had never seen before. And here's the disturbing part. His methods still shape China today. By the end of this video, you'll understand how a teenage king became the first emperor of China, and why his greatest victory may also have been his greatest curse. This is the true story of Qin Shi Huangdi, the first emperor of China. For centuries, the land we now call China was a fractured realm. 7 rival states locked in a brutal, endless cycle of bloodshed, known as the Warring States period. War was not an event, it was a way of life. Millions perished as bronze clashed against bronze, and chaos reigned supreme. But in the far west, shielded by natural mountain barriers, the state of Qin was hardening. They were rugged, disciplined, and hungry for conquest. Onto this violent stage stepped a 13-year-old boy, King Zheng, a child king who harbored an ambition vast enough to swallow the world. But a child does not rule alone. Under the shadow of his merchant chancellor Lu Buwei, the young king learned the dark arts of politics and power. At 22, the boy became a man. He crushed a rebellion, executed his mother's lover, and seized the seal of absolute authority. The regency was over. With power secured, he unleashed his weapon, the Qin Army, a meritocratic machine where status was earned only by the number of enemy heads cut off. They possessed superior technology, mass-produced bronze crossbows with standardized triggers, raining death from distances no other state could match. In 230 BC, the dominoes began to fall. The state of Han was the first to be swallowed by the Black Dragon of Qin. Against the Wei capital, brute force failed, so they weaponized nature, diverting the Yellow River to flood the city until its walls crumbled into mud. The mighty state of Chu required a different mind. General Wang Jian, a master strategist, demanded 600,000 men, or he would not fight at all. It was the largest army in history up to that point. When the Qin finally struck, the Chu forces were annihilated, their will broken. Yet, death nearly found the king first. The assassin Jing Kai, armed with a hidden dagger in a map, came within inches of ending the empire before it began. By 221 BC, the last king surrendered. The wars that had raged for 500 years were silenced. China was whole. King Zheng was no longer just a king. He proclaimed himself Qin Shi Huangdi, the first emperor, a title intended to echo through eternity. He tore the old world down by the roots. The feudal lords were stripped of power, their banners burned, and the empire divided into commanderies ruled by his appointees. His architect of control was Li Si. Together they implemented legalism, a philosophy where the law was absolute and the punishment was severe. Order was maintained through terror. Neighbor watched neighbor. If one committed a crime, the entire family or village could be punished. But with tyranny came progress. He abolished the chaotic currencies of the past. Now, only the Banliang coin, round like heaven, square like earth, was legal tender. He standardized weights and measures. A bushel of rice in the north was now exactly the same as a bushel in the south. Trade flourished. Most importantly, he unified the written word. Diverse scripts were erased, replaced by the small seal script. Now, the empire spoke with one voice. He built the Qin Direct Road, a highway system stretching for thousands of miles, wider than the roads of Rome, speeding armies and edicts across the land. To the north, the nomadic Xiongnu threatened. The emperor connected the scattered walls of the old states, forging the skeleton of the Great Wall. But these wonders were built on bones. Hundreds of thousands died from exhaustion and starvation, their bodies often buried within the structures they built. He also turned his eyes south, carving the Lingqiu Canal, a masterpiece of engineering that connected China's two great river systems for the first time. Desperate to control history, he ordered the burning of books, philosophy, poetry, history. Anything that challenged legalism was fed to the flames. When scholars resisted, the response was brutal. Legend says 460 were buried alive, a grim warning to anyone who clung to the past. As he conquered the world, he began to fear the one enemy he could not defeat: death. He became obsessed with finding the elixir of life. He sent Xu Fu with a fleet of ships and thousands of children into the eastern seas to find the immortals. They never returned. He spent decades building his final resting place, a subterranean universe with ceilings of pearls and rivers of flowing mercury. To guard him in the afterlife, he commissioned an army, 8,000 clay warriors, each with a unique face, originally painted in vivid colors. Today they stand in silent gray ranks, but they are the eternal witnesses to the emperor's power and his paranoia. In 210 BC, while on a tour of his empire, the man who sought immortality simply died. There were no thunderclaps, just a lifeless body in a carriage, far from home, leaving a vacuum of power. Fearful of rebellion, his advisors hid his death. They pulled a cart of rotting fish behind his carriage to mask the smell of the decomposing emperor. His son, Qin Shi, was weak and cruel. While he indulged in pleasures, the empire his father built began to burn. Two farmers, delayed by rain and facing execution for being late, decided they had nothing to lose. Are kings and generals born of a special breed? They asked. The revolts spread like wildfire. In 206 BC, the rebels breached the capital. The magnificent Yipang Palace burned for 3 months. Out of the ashes rose Liu Bang, a commoner who founded the Han dynasty. He inherited the unified state, but ruled with a lighter hand. Qin Shi Huangdi ruled for only 15 years, but he defined China for 2 millennia. The name China itself comes from Qin. This was the story of Qin Shi Huangdi. He didn't just unify China, he defined the cost of absolute power. His empire collapsed soon after his death, but the system he built endured for over 2,000 years. If you want more stories that reveal how history truly shapes the world we live in today, subscribe to the channel and we'll uncover them together.